Welcome to The Artist Matters. I'm Alex Rudy, and each week you will meet incredible artists from all walks of life. Filmmakers, writers, actors, painters, musicians, and so many more, sharing their stories to motivate and inspire the creative in you. Whether you're doing it for fun or looking to make a living, this show will help you on your journey to bring out the artist within and letting the world know that your art matters. Hello everyone, welcome back to The Artist Matters. I'm your host, Alex Rudy, and we are rounding out the month of October and the month of Halloween with one more guest. But boy, is it a doozy. This guest is a special effects makeup artist, but you may all know him from the Syfy competition show Face Off, because he was a contestant on it twice. On season 7, he competed and got to the finale, but didn't win. And he came back with the All-Stars in season 11 and won the whole thing. Yes, today's guest is none other than Cig Neutron. I'm so glad I was able to get him as a guest. Found him on Instagram, wrote to him and said, what the heck, maybe he'll do it. And he said yes. And I had a feeling he'd be such a fun guest because he was such a fun and engaging and interesting character on Face Off. And he came up with such great creations as Tony the Big Tuna, Chummy, his creation for the second chumming, Ku, God of War for that challenge, Murky, the dark water clown, as he calls him, and Tiger and Dragon, which won him season 11 in a final challenge. But Cig started off in Indiana and was always a quirky kid. Didn't seem to fit in until he found a love of special effects makeup, went to the Tom Savini makeup school, and right after he graduated, headed to LA, became friends and partners with Rannie, and they formed BizarroAuGoGo, where they were both able to showcase their creative talents. And then Cig explains how he got onto Face Off, what it was like competing, meeting the other artists, some questions I had to ask about the stuff you don't see, all this behind-the-scenes stuff. And he gives up so much great information about it and little stories that, man, I had no idea that's how they work the show to keep everybody focused on doing the makeups and not getting distracted by anything from the outside. Not even family photos or cell phones are allowed. But still, it was great to hear his journey and how he finally won it in the All-Star season, which was season 11, and the bonds and friendships that he forged while being on the show and working with and supporting his fellow makeup artists in the industry. He tells of his creative process and how he gets through artist's block, not just writer's block, artist block, as you'll see. And it's just such a great conversation. I can't believe I live in a world now where I met Cig Neutron and talked with him. It's so cool to see this guy you've seen on TV competing on the show, and I actually had a conversation with him. That is such a blessing and a great way to end the month of October and the month of Halloween. So let's get into this and sit back and enjoy this awesome conversation with me and the one, the only, Cig Neutron. All right. The moment has arrived. One and all, we have the one, the only, the legend, Cig Neutron. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on. It is such a great pleasure to be with one of my favorite makeup artists from Face Off.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks for taking the time and being on the show, and going to hopefully inspire some people to dabble in special effects makeup. You know, be creative. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely, yeah. Anytime you can inspire someone to be creative, that's a pretty powerful thing.
Absolutely. So your journey began in Indiana. Newcastle? Yep. Newcastle. What was it like growing up there?
The Midwest is an interesting place. It's, especially back in the pre-internet days, it was kind of like a time capsule back there. I don't know. I don't want to talk crap on the Midwest or anything, but, it's a very close-minded general mindset, and I was always just this weird kid that wore makeup and idolized Robert Smith, and so I got lots of strange looks, and I was like, this is not a place that I want to spend the rest of my life for sure. So.
What were Halloweens like there?
Actually pretty awesome. My mom, she was very supportive of my weirdness, and she would always, for some reason, every Halloween I went as a werewolf. I used to think I was a werewolf. It was crazy. That was my go-to. So some version of a werewolf for a young Cig Neutron.
Okay, the name. Where did it come from, Cig Neutron?
Yeah, I need to come up with an exciting fake story about the name, but the true story is I started showing in art galleries once I moved out here to LA, and my real name is Brandon Dishman, and I don't hate it, but I just didn't want to be known as the artist Brandon Dishman. So I just came up with this sleazy sci-fi name, and originally it was, for some reason, it was Cig Neutron. But I Googled that, and that was already a T-shirt company. Thank God, because I would not want to be known as Fig Neutron.
No.
And, I was a heavy smoker at the time, and I'm like, man, what sounds like fig? But, Cig Neutron, that's sleazy and catchy. So there you go. And I based it off of Fig Newton somehow. So.
Now, did you always have this creative side to you?
Yeah, before I could even write, my grandparents also, I would say, yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, how I was created, or the mindset. I don't know if nature versus nurture or whatever, but my family was most of my family is very supportive of how weird I was. And my grandparents would, before I could even write, they would just sit down, and I had stories to tell, and I asked them if they would write them down. I don't know what kid is please document these stories that I have. And I would just tell them these crazy scary stories, usually about monsters and haunted houses and stuff, and my grandma would just totally write them all down. So I have a bunch of these stories that I wrote as a kid, but just by verbalizing them to my grandparents, and they wrote them down for me.
Wow. Now, what about your first exposure to special effects makeup, or any makeup of any kind?
Yeah, my mom was also very cool with letting me watch horror movies of all kinds. And I remember we were watching Child's Play, and I asked, somebody was getting killed, and I don't even remember how old I was. I had to be really young, and I was like, how do they do that? Just it's a very stark memory that I have. And she was like, oh, it's just ketchup. And it's huh. And then that stuck in my head. Growing up, I just thought all of the blood in horror movies was ketchup, and I was like, wait, so somebody gets paid to just throw ketchup on people? And from there, I just became obsessed with every Halloween. They would show the Thriller and the making of Thriller.
Ah, yes.
Every Halloween or every season, and I just watched it. It felt like it was on every single day, all day, and I just watched it repetitively. And then I found out about Rick Baker, and then from that, the movie Summer School, actually, with Chainsaw and Dave. They're two goofy dudes that just do effects, and I was like, man, I want to be like those guys. So I saw the ad in Fangoria magazine for the Tom Savini's makeup effects school. And as soon as I graduated high school from Indiana, I went straight to Pennsylvania to go to the makeup effects school.
Oh, they had a branch in Pennsylvania, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So what was that like?
Man, it was awesome. It was every dream come true. It was I hated school. I liked art class, but I hated school. So now it was to immediately graduate and go to a place where the school was everything that I ever wanted to do. It was my school was making monsters. I'm like, okay, yes, I can do this. And yeah, it was like a 16-month program, and they taught us a whole bunch of awesome stuff. And soon as like 2 days after I graduated there, I was only like 19, and I had like $1,000 in a crappy Dodge Neon, and I just drove straight to LA. I didn't know anybody out here,
Wow.
or like never been there. I just knew that that was where I needed to be.
So about what year was this, would you say?
That was 2009.
So you took a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you create BizarroAuGoGo when you got out there?
Yeah, so I was out here for a while. The first thing I did is my first job, actually, I was out here for like 2 months, and I was freaking out because I wasn't getting any work. And somebody that went to the same school as I did was like, hey, I'm working on Tron Legacy. Do you want a job? And I was like, yes, please. So my first job out here was, working on Tron Legacy. And then from there,
What did
I
you
got
do?
to work on I was part of the entry-level jobs usually are like mold department stuff. So at the first department I was in, we were actually casting up like mannequins of the actors' bodies so that we could put the suits on them. They had like cyber scans of the actors and stuff. And then from there, I transitioned to the department where we actually wired the lights for the suits.
Oh.
So yeah, I don't know if people know it, but they actually, it wasn't CG. The suits for Tron Legacy actually lit up. And they had little like they were cell phone lights actually in strips, and we had to put like Velcro on them. And so when one burns out, they just ripped it out and then re-Velcroed in another one.
Oh, nice little movie magic there. What was it like being on that set for the first time?
Well, I never got to go to set, but
No.
being in the shop and working on just a big major motion picture was like really surreal. I was, it's first day I walked in and I'm all like shaking and nervous. I want to screw something up. And, but it was awesome. And through that, I got to work on many big projects, big films. But eventually, and there's nothing against the industry or anything, but I realized that working in big motion pictures, you're almost like a cog in the machine. Basically, like they'll give you something to mold that somebody else sculpted and somebody else designed. And so you're just a part of the process. And that didn't really feel like creatively fulfilling to me. And about the time that I was coming to this realization, I met Rannie Rodil. And it was through her that we decided, I was like, man, I got to do something on my own, something that I can express my creativity with. And we created BizarroAuGoGo and just started making these bizarre monsters, pinup shoots, and all kinds of wacky stuff, which eventually led to us running a satanic soap company called Rub-a-Dub Beelzebub.
Okay. And so
Yeah,
you make the soap? Is it
Yeah.
real? It's real soap.
Oh yeah, yep. I do all the sculptures, and Rannie makes she casts up the soap and she's like a certified aromatherapist, so she scents them and everything. And so and then we just keep branching out and doing weird things more and more. So my life went towards films and effects, and then sort of veered away from that as I still incorporate effects and things into everything that we do, but it's more rewarding to do it for myself rather than a big movie.
And you're still partnered up with Rannie?
Mm-hmm.
Still doing your thing. That's good. And what else does she do?
So now it's pretty nuts. Like 8 months ago, we had this crazy, weird spiritual awakening, and now she does bone divination. And it's like our lives just continue to get more and more bizarre, and I love it. I love every minute of it. Wouldn't have it any other way. So now we incorporate. She does a lot of like spirit work and things. So we team up, and I do sculptures that she then infuses with different stones and herbs and things. So we essentially make like magical pieces of artwork now. So
Wherever the road takes you, right?
yeah.
All right. Well, then the road took you to the Syfy show, Face Off.
Uh-huh.
How did that happen? Was there an audition process?